Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Macaw Podcast universe.
Hello, hello, hello.
It is the podcast that exists for one reason and one reason alone.
To prove people wrong when they say sequels are never better than the originals.
And I gotta come right out front, and I gotta come clean. I made us hot chocolate because it's a windy, blistery day. When you're listening to this, it's probably a bright, sunny day because it's probably late spring. But right now, it's late winter, and boy, it's cold. And so I made hot chocolate, and I put old marshmallows in them.
It's very stiff marshmallows.
Yeah, and I thought this will be kind of fun. First sip, I go, why do I do this sometimes? I don't like marshmallows. So my day is kind of taking a strange turn at the moment. And so to curb that, we're going to talk about the New Mutants and finish our X-Men.
Yeah, that'll definitely bring your mood back up.
Yeah. So we've done it. You have voted on us covering X-Men, and we went through and we watched all 13 X-Men movies.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Yeah. And do we want to give some thoughts on X-Men in general or this movie, or do we want to just
wait till the end?
Gotta wait till the end. Okay. Well,
just because this movie's garbage doesn't mean it doesn't deserve us talking about it first.
Okay. All right. Well, here we go. The movie is directed by a man named Josh Boone. Now, you might know him from a movie called Fault in Our Stars.
Oh, okay.
Can I tell you a funny story about Fault in Our Stars? We were on tour, and there was this woman in a place called Reading, where and those who live in the Pacific Northwest can guess where I'm headed with this story. And after our set, she attempted to prophesy and witness to me, even though I'm a Christian. It was strange, and she was doing all this weird stuff that was like hook questions that didn't really mean anything. So she was kind of
trying to suggest information from you. Yeah,
and make me think that I'm having a spiritual reaction.
Yeah.
And pretty much everything she suggested, I was like, no, that doesn't resonate with me. But she talked to Grayson, and she said she got very serious, very, very serious. And she goes, have you seen Fault in Our Stars? And he goes, no, it had recently come out that year. And she goes, there's something for you in that movie. There's a God has a message for you in that movie.
Okay. But what is his reaction? Just great.
He was like, "Oh, cool." And then when we left, we were all detoxing about it because it was kind of like one of those things where in the moment I felt very, very weird and uncomfortable, but afterward, when you have some distance, you're like, guys, what was that?
Yeah.
And so for the whole tour, and even since then, there's always moments where I'm like, Grayson, have you watched Fault in Our Stars yet? Because God wants you to watch it. It's pretty funny. So
wow,
that is what I will always associate with that movie.
Yeah, you just shouldn't watch it. Don't just keep that memory the way it is.
Yeah.
And don't
have you seen it?
Yeah, I have. I didn't read the book, but the book was crazy successful too. And I didn't like the movie because it just made me feel alone. It was just a sad movie. So it's just I don't know, I didn't need to watch that. And it was on a night where it was I was in college.
Yeah.
But it was a girls' night, and it's let's watch this romance movie. And already I'm not into it because I'm so usually just not into a romance movie ever, especially unless it's some classic.
Right.
Or something. So I already was not in the best mood to watch it. And then it just made me feel worse.
Yeah.
So I didn't like it. I don't remember if it's a good movie or not. I just remember how it made me feel.
Right. Well,
but, getting into angst, this movie's prime for it.
Yeah. So this movie has a very strange production. I'll get to that in a second.
Wait, isn't Shailene Woodley in in Fault in Our Stars?
I believe she is, yeah.
That probably was another because I had a bad association with that movie.
Yeah.
I was like, she sucks.
So Josh Boone made Fault in Our Stars, and then he did some, if not all, of the directing for The Stand, the new TV series that was on CBS, 2021.
Yeah.
The movie's
that no one watched?
Yeah. The movie was written by Josh Boone, and then it was also written by someone else named Nate Lee. Now, Nate Lee wrote 2 episodes of The Stand, And then his other writing credits are as follows. And these are all he is listed as concepts by. Concepts by on Jackass 4, 4.5, 3, and 3.5.
What does that mean?
So
what?
So these guys were like childhood friends.
Okay.
But it is funny because it's like that does not require you to write like characters and story.
You guys are just in a room brainstorming how to hurt each other.
Yeah. And hey, no disrespect to Jackass.
No, we love our Jackass bros. We were just watching History of the World Part 2, the second episode, and there was a Rasputin sketch that was just Jackass.
It was pretty funny.
When it was just Johnny Knoxville at first. But then when it started showing the other guys, I honestly said, yeah. I was so excited.
Yeah, the Jackass movies, if you can handle them, they have kind of an unbelievable like story arc that's kind of crazy because it's for those who are uninitiated, they started out as this show. And
wait, can we talk about our story with it though?
Yeah, can I do this first though? So they started out as this show. But then I think the network was like not letting them do some stuff.
Yeah.
So they got like a budget and they made a movie and it was successful.
Yeah.
And then they got really successful and Steve-O got very addicted to drugs and alcohol.
Not just him, but
in particular. Yeah. And so the second movie has this, and you wouldn't think that you would notice these things, but you absolutely do.
Some of it's really dark.
Yeah, the second movie has like this really dark tone. The first one's like, oh, these are dumb kids that you see at the park, like jumping off of benches and stuff. The second movie's like, this feels dark.
Yeah.
And then the third movie, they have a completely dry set because they want to make sure that Steve-O stays sober.
Yeah.
And there is like this hopeful feeling in Jackass 3 and 3.5 that's kind of insane. And then Jackass Forever like was filmed before and during the pandemic, and it just has this kind of like it really felt like when we went and saw that in theaters, we had just gone through and watched them all, which you can tell them about, but it just felt like, oh, like they're doing this again, like the world can be okay again.
Yeah.
And so Jackass kind of rocks, and it has a wild story arc for a non-narrative movie.
So funny how heartwarming it is.
I know.
I never knew because I did not grow up watching Jackass. It's always just been like those gross movies that like
those idiots
that like boys
how it's
watch.
Always presented.
But then when 4 was coming out and it came out on Valentine's Day or around Valentine's Day, the marketing behind it was just so good that you and I were like, I think we need to get on the Jackass train.
Because it was like, when was the last time you got together with your friends and it was playing music and playing this orchestral stuff and then it did that
is like still not is really bad, so it just felt like, oh, everyone needs this movie.
Yeah.
So we asked our friend Evan, who had seen them all up until that point, like, can you take us on this journey? And he would like before every movie explain what they're going through at this time. And it was just such an incredible experience.
Truly was.
And I just love that we watched it all with our friends.
I know
that makes it even more special to me.
Yeah. So we watched all 8.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not for the faint of heart.
No.
There's some pretty intense stuff in there.
I love it so much.
But yeah. So
this guy does concepts of Jackass, and then he's done some episodes of The Stand.
Yeah, in this movie.
Starting to kind of put together why the story was so
bad. The cinematography is by Peter Deming, who is a guy who's done a lot of movies.
That name sounds familiar.
So he did Evil Dead 2.
Okay.
My Cousin Vinny, Scream 2, Scream 4, and recently he did The Menu.
So he did The Menu?
Yeah.
Why does this movie look so bad?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that there are explanations for sure, but as soon as this movie started, it was like, I am watching a TV show. This isn't a movie.
Yeah. So when this movie started, let's talk about the look a little bit. I was like, oh, this is not necessarily what I'm attracted to in movies, because yes, it looks like a Netflix show. Like not like Stranger Things, which looks great. It looked like a run-of-the-mill Netflix show. But I did think to myself, I'm kind of glad that this is looks different than the mainline X-Men movies, and it inherently did not look epic and big in scope. And I did like that element of it.
I can't even get there in my brain
Uh-huh.
because this movie, it looks like, and I know this is very mean to say, but that it was made by people who are at the beginning of their career.
Yeah.
It looked so bad and it was shot so terribly. I know a lot of that. There's a story behind a lot of it, but I can't. It's like I'm ashamed for this to be part of this franchise.
Yeah.
That's a weird franchise.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Well, I ultimately fell on not liking how it looked, but initially when the movie started, I kind of thought like, oh, this at least looks different than the others, which is interesting to me. But as we know, Bill Pope, one of the greatest cinematographers to ever live, shot Ant-Man and the Wasp. So, Quantumania. So, I mean, I think sometimes cinematographers, I would imagine a director's just kind of like put the camera there, do this, do that. In this case, I would think from reading about Josh Boone, he doesn't seem like he's like a control freak or anything like that. So maybe it's just a matter of like, we have a schedule and we can't put in the time.
Someone is a control freak in this story, but it's not him.
What do you mean?
Like the executives and stuff.
Well, yeah, yes. Yeah.
Like it's bad.
But we're not quite there yet. So first of all, music is by Mark Snow, who did a theme song for a television series called X-Files.
Oh, fun.
The movie comes out on August 28th, 2020. Early stages of theaters opening back up.
They dumped it. They dumped this movie.
Yeah. Budget $67 million. Domestically, it makes 23.8, and worldwide it makes 45.
Yeah.
Now those are like legit pandemic numbers. I mean, sometimes like late last year, you'd sometimes or early last year, and then in 2021, you would sometimes see and hear things that were like, "Oh, this movie was a pandemic movie," and it was like, not really.
Yeah.
This one can totally fall under that category for
probably
sure.
why they dumped it.
Yeah. Okay, everybody, we're coming in for another ad about our audiobook, but we're going faster. We wanted to give you the first intro that last time, but now it's fast.
The fact that you have to explain that this one's going to be faster is already
it's
not
already
going
hurting
to
the chances, but we're not slowing down. Okay.
Shut it. Our podcast, the Macabre Podcast Universe, is now going to be available as audiobooks starting on April 25th. Several collections will be coming out that will include all of the Marvel phases that we have covered and more. And then we have more coming out on May 9th and then more coming out on June 6th. And several of these collections will have exclusive bonus content that you can only get in the audiobooks.
Yeah, and some of them also include the Patreon episodes that made sense to include as well.
And
so,
you can get these wherever you get your audiobooks.
And you can go to the library and you can request that they get it.
And that means you can get it on like Barnes & Noble, Apple, Google Play,
Downpour,
digital, physical,
probably
whatever.
Hoopla, maybe.
Yeah.
It's all over the place. Check it out. We love you guys. Out. Okay, so now I want to talk about something that might not interest you as much, but hopefully it does. And it's the box office of the X-Men movies.
Okay.
Now, I just want to say
Don't read every tiny dollar amount.
No. I just want to say that this is interesting that domestically there's like a definite pattern in these movies.
Oh, okay.
So domestically, number 1, Deadpool 2, number 2, Deadpool, then Days of Future Past, which has a stacked cast.
Yeah.
Logan, X-Men Apocalypse, then the original X-Men Last Stand of the original trilogy. The Wolverine, X2, Wolverine Origins, First Class, X-Men, and then at the bottom, Dark Phoenix, and then below that, New Mutants. So, and then the worldwide box office, you can shuffle some of that stuff around. But it's just kind of interesting that you would hope that they continue to build. And you can see, some of the first 4 or so movies are toward the bottom-ish, middle and bottom. But these last few are just lower and lower. Oh. So you can just see domestically and worldwide that people are just not that interested in this universe anymore.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, but before I get into production, because I have to kind of reread some of this stuff because it's kind of wild, could you hit me with some actors and really fill the time.
Yeah. So first up we have Maisie Williams, who plays Rain. I think that's how they were saying her name, Sinclair. She of course is in Game of Thrones. She's Arya Stark, but she's also in The Falling, The Book of Love, Multiverses, Pistol, and a lot of stuff. And Charlie Heaton plays Sam Guthrie from Kentucky. He, of course, is in Stranger Things. As Mike likes to say, he is the upside-down version of Leonardo DiCaprio.
I thought that was a private joke.
I think it's so devastatingly accurate. He's also in Marrowbone, The Souvenir, No Future, Soulmates. I am just now thinking this. I should have looked it up prior to this, but when did he get extradited?
I don't remember.
Was it around any time? Did this affect the movie at all?
Let me look it up.
Okay.
What's his name again?
Charlie Heaton.
Wow, I thought it was Jonathan something.
That's his character's name in Stranger Things.
Oh.
Because wasn't it he was arrested for drugs and was sent back to Canada and can't come back to the U.S. or something?
In October 2017, Heaton was detained at the LAX airport in Los Angeles for possession of small amounts of cocaine. He was not charged with a crime and was instead sent back to London. He was later...
London?
Yeah.
Oh.
He was later allowed to return to the U.S. to shoot the third season of Stranger Things.
Oh, he's British. I thought he was Canadian.
I thought so, too. But yeah, so here's what's crazy. Remember, folks, this movie came out in 2020. By the time he gets caught in October 2017 with cocaine, they have shot this movie.
Wild.
We'll get into
Wild
it.
Stuff. Have we covered Anya Taylor-Joy? Yeah, we have in the Split stuff.
Oh yeah, we have.
Alice Braga.
I have to say it, and I'm sad to say it. She is a favorite of mine, and I didn't think it was going to happen, but I have now seen her do a bad performance in a movie.
Here's the thing, though. I am agreeing with you. But I think you got to defend all the actors here, because watching this movie, I felt mad for all of them.
That's true. I mean, I think there's a lot of...
They are they got Anya Taylor-Joy in this movie, and they're wasting her. They're wasting everybody in this movie. Alice Braga plays Dr. Reyes. She is also in I Am Legend. Oh, that's what she's from. Predators, Elysium, Repo Men, and a lot of other stuff.
Okay.
Blue Hunt plays Danny Moonstar.
She's not really in anything. I think she's
she's
just
also
in this.
in Another Life.
Oh, I'm wrong.
The Originals. The Last. Oh, that's not.
But she's like a total newbie.
Pretty much.
I mean, this is like should have been a breakout
she's in
role.
Stumptown.
That's after though.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, not a lot, but more than you think.
Yeah.
Henrique Zaga plays Roberto da Costa.
Mm-hmm.
He is in The Stand. He plays Nick. Do you remember who Nick is?
I don't.
Me neither. Looking for Alaska, 13 Reasons Why, so on and so forth.
13 Reasons Why I'm Looking for Alaska.
And
How's
that's
that?
about it.
Okay. Well, I'm ready for production now.
Okay.
So, strap in, folks. After Josh Boone made Fault in Our Stars, he got together with his childhood best friend, Nate Lee, and they created a comic book of Chris Claremont and Bill Sienkiewicz's New Mutants comic to adapt into a trilogy. And so...
Sorry. They, using the inspiration of the already established New Mutants comic, they created their own?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I just needed to... Okay.
And so they pitched this as a trilogy.
Okay.
Number 1, rubber reality supernatural horror movie. I don't know what rubber reality means, but... Number 2, alien invasion film featuring Warlock. And then the third would have been an apocalyptic horror film inspired by the 1989 comic book storyline Inferno.
Rubber reality genre is where the characters in the movie are not aware that the true nature of reality is different from their perceptions.
Oh, okay. So they definitely pulled that one off. So that's what they do. Right off the bat, they're like, Professor X is going to be in it. That was one thing. And they were like, we have been approved to make a full-fledged horror movie. And I remember hearing that this was going to be a horror movie.
And I was into it.
I was like, that's a cool idea.
Yes.
I'm into it. But some things happen.
Okay.
So yeah, they're originally going to come out with it in April of 2018. And there winds up being a ton of different writers on the movie that are uncredited, but this is like unconfirmed.
Obvious.
But there's apparently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Plus, there was at least 12 people beyond the 2 that are written credits.
Obvious.
Yeah. But the studio's like, yeah, we hear that you want to make a horror movie, but even though we have 2 rated R movies that have been huge successes, we don't think that that's a good idea, and we think it should be PG-13. And so they fall on a compromise, which is, let's make John Hughes meet Stephen King.
Okay.
Good pitch.
Yeah.
I also found out he had an interesting story about Stephen King.
Tell me.
When he was a kid, he grew up in a very strict Christian household where Stephen King was off limits. And so he would sneak his books and like rip off the covers and put them in other books and stuff like that. And he wrote a letter to Bangor, Maine, and he just assumed that they would know where to give it.
Are you okay? Really?
Yeah, and just telling him how much his work means to him. And by the way, folks, Jordan and I a couple of years ago we did the pilgrimage to Bangor, Maine, and we saw Stephen King's house and looked up all the locations of Derry, Maine, and all that stuff. It was very fun. And his dad one day is like, "Hey, you got like a package from Stephen King.
Get out."
And so Stephen King sent him back, because I think he'd also sent him the first 3 Dark Tower books, I think.
Huh?
And so he signed those for him, and they began talking. And then later in life, I guess they kind of like had somewhat of a relationship where they were like kind of friends.
Stop.
Because he asked him to be in a movie or something like that. And so he in the interview I was reading, he said like, and we later developed a relationship or something like that.
That is so cool. He's the coolest person.
So all you had to do was write him, Jordan.
Apparently. Well, I didn't start reading him until later in life.
Way later, yeah.
And it would not have been off limits in my house.
Yeah, right. So, and also when his parents saw that Stephen King like wrote back to him and stuff and gave him all this stuff, they lifted the Stephen King ban.
You have to.
Yeah.
This
so
man
that's pretty cool.
is fostering your child's creativity.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But so then, if you'll remember, around the time that they're still working on this movie, they haven't started shooting it. Well, maybe they had because of this, but yeah. Anyway, the movie It comes out. So I think they would have already shot the movie by now. I'm forgetting what comes first, but the studio's like, oh, that movie did really well. Go for the horror, and they release a trailer online that is like really showcasing the horror. And that's when we're all like, whoa, okay, it's horror. But then they had decided by then that they were going to do reshoots to add like more of a YA material to the movie.
Okay.
But after this movie comes out, does well, and then they release their trailer and they're seeing all this stuff, they're like, you know what? Let's not worry about that, actually. Stick with the horror.
Man, they had no faith in these people.
Yeah. But in the end, a lot of people think that some of the tonal shifts involving the movie had to do with that there wasn't a strong producer presence on set because Simon Kinberg, the producer, was busy directing Dark Phoenix.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it seems like this movie's kind of like while they're making it, there's not a lot of oversight. So I think
really
that
interesting.
Yeah, I think you're getting like notes from where it's like make it less scary, and then it's like who wrote that? I'm totally like guessing.
Like no
at
one's
this
here
point,
to actually witness how scary or not it is.
That's the impression I got. And so yeah, so then they had to do some rewrites because Apocalypse was people didn't like that movie, and they. At one point, they were going to have John Hamm show up in like the post credits as Mr. Sinister.
How many, huh?
Yeah. And then Antonio Banderas was supposed to show up and play a villain.
How many, who?
But all of that didn't come through. And yeah, so they keep changing things and they keep rescheduling reshoots. So I believe by the point it comes out, I think that they have finished shooting the movie. And then now they just keep on being like, okay, we'll do reshoots. And now they're like, the cast is kind of too old to do reshoots now.
Uh-huh.
And they keep going back and forth on horror, not horror. And then Disney now owns Fox. And so they're like, what do we do with this movie? And there was a point where Boone put it like this. He was like, I hadn't worked on the movie in a year.
What?
It had just been sitting there. So we went back to like finish the movie. And it was just like, at this point, we're just adding like touches and stuff because we can't do reshoots. We can't really change that much. And by then, they had pushed the movie, let's see, 1, 2, this would be the third change of date.
So this just feels like a case of this movie wasn't given enough attention.
Yeah, I think so.
That's interesting. Cause the concept of this movie is a instant banger. It's like such a good idea. It's so cool. And we've had so many superhero movies at this point. Why not? Like, and it almost, I can kind of, I feel like during that time I would probably feel like they're not really playing with genres in superhero movies. This one, they want to play with genre. One of my favorites.
Yeah.
I want to see this. I haven't seen any other X-Men movies at this point, or, but a few.
Yeah.
But I'll go see this movie.
Oh, yeah. I was like fully on board with the idea.
To see this movie.
Yeah. But here's the thing. So they keep pushing the movie. They eventually are like April 2019. Now, of course, they don't do that.
Yeah.
Because of COVID. Or wait, no, that'd be 2019. That was a year before COVID. So yeah, I think maybe they had it to April 2020 at one point. Yes, they pushed it to April 2020, and then they move it a fourth time to August. So that last move is the only one that's COVID adjacent. The other three are just because they don't have a movie put together.
Wow.
But here's the kicker, and what shocked me: no reshoots ever took place for this movie.
What?
So
that explains a lot.
It actually does, yeah. It seems like, especially when Disney comes into the picture, they're just like, we really are not interested in building this universe that you are working on, this little universe within a universe.
I understand that. So it's just, that's bad luck.
Yeah. But I mean, I also don't see where the good movie is in this.
No, me neither. It's just a good concept.
The concept's great, but like the actual scenes and stuff, it's not like... not to invoke the Snyder cut of Justice League, but to invoke it, like, I still think that that's a bad story and it's not a good movie, but the upgrade from the theatrical to the Zack Snyder cut is insane quality-wise. And, of course, there's more money into that and all this other stuff to deal with. But like, it is actually boggling how much... If you had only seen those two movies in your life, you'd be like, well, one is an F and the other one is an A+. Like, they're so different from each other.
Yeah.
And I don't see that this movie has that somewhere, where there's like, oh, if we had shot 5 more scenes, this movie would really work.
No. You need to start over.
Right. And so then the movie comes out. Nobody sees it. Now, a lot of that is because, I mean, I know us at the time, we weren't even comfortable going to the theaters.
We wouldn't have seen this one, but...
We wouldn't have,
right.
But... So I think it kind of protected the movie from maybe like really falling off a cliff.
Yeah. Because it's just forgotten.
Now it's like, oh, that's a casualty of COVID is what you can say instead of a bad movie. Like I would hope that for Josh Boone this doesn't like hurt his career.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it doesn't sound like he got to do what he meant to do.
Mm-hmm. It also sounded like he needed some more guidance.
Yeah, and but it looks like during the pandemic he was able to release that and The Stand, and The Stand maybe is something he'd be more proud of anyway.
Yeah.
So he can do that. I'm not going to watch The Stand. You read the book and it's like you can't adapt this. It's too big. I don't need to watch a show.
I mean, that show is so bad. It has to be so bad because when as soon as I found out the network, it was like on CBS or something. So it was like, okay, well, it's not going to be good. Because they're not going to I don't know. I just don't have faith in that network to actualize that.
Right.
And then when I saw stills of the show, everyone was so beautiful and not dirty.
And it's like the end of the world.
This is it's a pandemic that has killed 99% of the population.
Yeah.
There was nothing there.
No. So let's get into the movie, huh?
Let's do it.
Now, if we kind of skip around, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
We just kind of hit the highlights because we got a lot to talk about as far as the X-Men universe at large.
So let's just say straight off the bat, in terms of like how this movie looks, like it is so obvious sometimes that there was a re-edit, and this speaks to there was no reshoot. So they had no choice but to re-edit scenes, and sometimes you could tell that they like zoomed in on a thing.
Yeah, there would be a weird like motion blur that you see in like Vic Berger videos.
Yeah.
I only noticed it one time, but it seems like you noticed it maybe a couple more.
I only noticed that motion blur one time too, but it just felt like there were other like shots that
were like cropped weird.
Yeah, they were cropped weird. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And the cut, some of the cuts were just really off feeling, and it was all over the place with that kind of stuff, and it looked so bad. It was shot just horrendously. Yeah. Like, not only did it look bad, but the way it was shot was just like there's no horror in this movie.
No, I think it'd be scary if you were maybe like 7 or 8.
Maybe.
Yeah. You know? Because I thought the smiley face dudes were cool. It was like, I don't understand why these are CG.
I hated it.
Because I like the design, but it reminded me of Pan's Labyrinth, and I was like, why didn't you just hire Doug Jones
to just walk around and then duplicate him a ton of times?
Seriously, because that would be like scary. That would actually be scary. So that's why there's things where it's like,
I'm also confused by that part of the story, but
yeah,
we can talk about it.
Oh, okay. So movie starts out with this girl running, and her dad's like, something came.
I liked how it started.
Yeah, it didn't look good, but
no, it didn't.
I was giving it the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, it was just start right away. I thought that was good.
Yeah.
And then she wakes up in the insane asylum.
It's very funny that like the movie starts.
Asylum, the hospital.
Yeah, the movie starts and it says, she's like, my dad always said that there's 2 bears within us, like an evil bear and then a good bear, and they fight for balance. And it's just funny because I was like, I didn't think that meant there was a literal evil bear within her.
I think that if it was a better story and written better and they still had an actual bear, I think you would fixate on that less.
Well, yeah, and I gotta say, like, I want to go on record as pro demon bear in movies. I mean, if you were gonna put a demon bear in a movie, I am definitely pro that.
Yeah.
But this movie, I mean, I saw someone on Letterboxd that I follow was like, for a movie that has a demon bear, it sucks that I don't really like this movie.
That's good.
But yeah, anyway.
So things that I have issues with right off the bat, as we're kind of getting to know this world a little bit, there's just no explanation for it that I think there needed to be. But okay, so in this movie we have 5 kids.
Yeah.
And 1 doctor.
Yeah.
5 kids and 1 doctor in this facility. And it's run by some corporation that we find out later. But they're not going to help the doctor out. They're not going to like give her a staff. There was no mention of like why there would only be 1 doctor. She physically can't be doing that 24/7.
Well, see, and here's something where I will say, like, if they had done reshoots, or if Disney was interested in like letting this story kind of hint at a bigger universe, that's where like John Hamm comes in at the end and he was like, I was behind the whole thing or whatever. Because there's like someone at a computer the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's never shown who that is.
Yeah. Behind a computer, you mean like
at the computer?
That was her at the computer.
What?
That was the doctor at the computer.
But I thought there were times
receiving information on what to do.
Oh yeah, but I mean, okay. So what I mean is like, who's sending that information to her? Like,
sure, yeah.
And the movie is setting it up like we're gonna be, explaining this, and then it doesn't do anything with it.
No.
And I feel like in this type of movie, that's not just being like creative by like not showing you the villain. That's just bad writing.
It is bad. And it is just like your world just is illogical when it feels like you're trying to set up this like insane asylum movie.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like this is a ward in a hospital. This is the hospital.
Yeah.
And you have one doctor running the whole thing. That is not feasible. That doesn't make sense.
Well, and I like the idea that the movie has where it's like, here's someone with these psychic powers and they are creating these hauntings for all these other characters.
Yeah.
But I wish there was like a mystery to it.
Yeah.
Because right away I was like, oh, that's her power.
No, the kids aren't like trying to figure it out the whole time or anything.
Yeah, and it would have been much more interesting, I think, if they had set it up in a way that it felt like maybe the guy behind the computer
or I was thinking
is
like
setting those things
the
up.
Doctor. They start becoming suspicious of the doctor because it's like, do we really know the doctor?
Yeah.
And it's like, do we really know all of her mutant powers? Or is she a mutant? And you think that she's doing these things. Or they're like being drugged.
Yeah.
And they like there's so you could run wild with the possibilities of misdirection.
Really yeah, it's just a very uncompelling movie.
Yeah, especially when we have a movie like Glass.
I thought about Glass.
I actually didn't think about it until now.
Where it was like I actually kept thinking about how good Glass looked.
Yeah.
And thinking that it has Anya Taylor-Joy and James McAvoy in it, and I was like, "That's the X-Men movie I want to watch."
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just not. It's kind of like, what's the point of talking about the plot?
I know. But yeah, she wakes up in the hospital and she is a mutant, and she's there to be studied to make sure that she's not a danger to herself and society, but to herself is what they're promising her. So she's here under observation to work through it with the other kids who are there for the same reasons.
Yeah.
I also just like it just felt like such a first draft of a story.
Yeah.
But you'd think like a kid who's new there trying to figure out herself in this world, what her place is, what happened to her, how she got there. And there's no like really figuring out how anyone else got there.
No.
At all.
And it was another like totally weird thing at the beginning of the movie. And this is first draft, like you're saying, like same thing where our main character runs. For some reason, Ilyana right off the bat's like, run, my American child. And so she's running and she runs into a shield. The next scene, she's trying to commit suicide.
Yeah.
And I was like, you have not shown me that the character is in this much despair that she's like, I'm ready to lose it all.
Yeah.
She goes from like, oh, I'd love to escape to immediately like, I need to kill myself. And it didn't really make any sense at all. And later in the movie, it actually felt cheap, adding just like a very serious topic like suicide and just being like that flippant with it.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, oh, wow, we're just not going to deal with that.
So the movie that I was thinking about during this movie was the Dream Masters, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Dream Masters. Because that takes place in a hospital.
Found out that was an influence on the movie.
No, not enough. But that movie, as anyone who's listened to that episode of us covering it, that movie rocks. And it's children in a hospital who are all having a collective hysteria is what is being studied. And it's just like base level, what a badass concept.
Yeah.
And not only that, they knocked it out of the park. So then we have another teen movie of all these kids in a hospital who are, we all know this is a mutant movie. There's no, so we know that, but I just, they should have, I can't believe that they cited that as inspiration because it just doesn't feel like it.
I know. I feel like they should have just basically not ripped it off, but just kind of like homaged it heavily, I guess.
I know,
like Stranger Things is not doing same storylines as Spielberg movies, but it's like, yeah, like
we know you guys love Spielberg and you love Stephen King.
Yeah, it's like they're riding around on bikes. Like you read it, we get it. Like sometimes it can even be a little too much for some people. I enjoy it, but it being Stranger Things. But it felt like this movie could have been maybe a little more like, hey, you know what? Here's the deal. Freddy Krueger in this movie is this bad guy, Mr. Sinister or whoever.
Right.
And it is a team that has to fight him. And it's Dream Masters, but it's superheroes. And I'd be
why not?
Let's go.
Yeah. So, because the thing that they do really well in that movie is
bring Freddy Krueger into the X-Men.
Hey, let's go. In that movie, they do really well is each kid has their own thing.
Yeah.
That's very established. Whether it's that one kid that likes making those marionette dolls.
Yeah.
And the other kid who was like really strong and all this stuff. Like, and you have that other girl who like is a drug addict.
I'm bad.
So they all have their own thing.
And beautiful.
And in this movie, the only thing people have is one dude, the one hot guy, like,
I get too hot.
He gets too hot and can't. I don't know. He's rich apparently, but they don't go further with that. And then the Charlie Heaton character carries around a piece of freaking coal from the coal mine where he is responsible for his father's death.
I exploded.
He could be more of a caricature of the South in this movie. And Anya Taylor-Joy's character, like, we find out that she's been abused. Although I'm still unclear on how that worked.
Yeah, I guess she was abused by mutants.
But I couldn't tell if, like, her as a child made those characters up. Like, those are monsters. To, like, cope with what actually happened to her.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell. And then our other character, her thing is, like, she just says that she was hurt.
Hers was more compelling to me because
they got into it more than anyone else.
Yeah, because they said that the priest, she said that she had like turned into this wolf, and the priest said she was a witch and marked her with an M for mutant.
W for witch.
Oh, I thought it was M for mutant.
I thought it was a W for witch.
That makes more sense, but it works for both.
Sure.
And that actually worked, and like her flashback, or when she was in the shower and was attacked, that was like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
I thought that stuff was like almost good.
But it was all like so half-assed, all of it.
Yeah, I mean...
No one felt like a true character.
I wonder if any of this is a symptom of just like, hey, like, this is an X-Men movie, we'll probably get to make more. We can expand on this stuff later. Which isn't a good way to start a series. We see that time and time again when you try and go in and be like, hey, it's the Mummy, but we're setting up another universe.
You think that they had too much confidence in the brand name?
I think it's possible that they had too much confidence in the brand name.
That's interesting.
Because like,
I actually feel like there should be more pressure on a movie like this.
Yeah. Well,
because of the brand name.
Well, that's like if you look at Deadpool and Logan, the two movies that really go outside of the
norm.
I'm going to call it hockey lines for some reason.
Okay.
Those two movies that go outside the hockey lines, they work really hard to be like. I mean, those movies are very confident in what they are doing, but they're also like they know that they have to be good.
Yeah.
They can't not be good.
This one the whole time is unsure of what it is.
Yeah. Which, of course, is studio notes going back and forth, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But also, it just doesn't feel like the bare bones are there either.
No.
But yeah, I mean, we've kind of covered a lot here. There is this scene where the kids are like, Ilyana says, "Hey, guess what?"
Is that the character's name?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And she's the sister of Colossus. She goes, "Guess what, guys? I made the nurse fall asleep so we can do whatever we want." And then there's this montage.
Instead of being 5 children trapped in a hospital, not sure actually how to get out of here, presumably some of them have been here for a while. No one seems to be questioning when they're leaving, apparently. And they drug her, and their go-to isn't let's raid her files and her computer to try and learn more information about
this is the John Hughes note.
Let's pop some popcorn, put on a movie, dance, and throw the popcorn around the room and say, she's going to kill us for this.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, if you're going to say a line like, do you know how much trouble we're going to get into when they're just like running around on a wheelchair and like skidding with it and then throwing popcorn around? It's like, this isn't even stuff that would take longer to clean up than like 5 minutes.
No, you just get a vacuum.
Yeah. So maybe do something that's actually insane.
Like high stakes, like they're taking a risk doing something.
Hey, guess what? I found cocaine or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's one lady to 5 children. You don't think that like the kids can just go swim whenever they want because there's only one person who's in charge of them, when like anyone else can just be like, I'm just going to watch TV all day.
Yeah.
We have like one session a day is how it feels. What else am I supposed to do with my time?
It's weird. And they also try and connect it with Logan, like suggesting that she was part of the group that was also...
She is part of the group because that is the Essex Corporation.
Okay,
That's what they were saying.
Yeah, that was part of the... Gilmore's foot is twitching. Look, viewers, listeners, look. Oh, I think he heard my name, and now he's kind of awake. He's not twitching anymore.
He heard his name. Call me by your name.
Anyway, so what was I talking about? Come on. I can't edit.
Oh, the Essex Corporation stuff.
Oh yeah, they show footage from Logan from the video that he looks at, where he sees that they're experimenting on children, and especially knowing that the universe is shut down and there's no more X-Men movies except for Deadpool 3, I was just like, oh, they should have cut this footage at least. Like, keep the Essex Corporation, whatever. Like, I didn't remember what that was, so who cares? But don't show the footage from Logan.
Yeah.
And it's like you're comparing the best movie in this franchise to one of, if not the worst. It's not the worst. Nothing is worse than Apocalypse. But yeah, they do try and get it on in the pool.
Audia and Roberto or something.
I get too hot.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that it's a psionic event, actually.
It was so funny. First of all, how many freaking people are hot in like, how many fire mutants are there? I feel like this is like the third or fourth one, and it's not the same character.
Yeah.
And then also, at some point, that they all, because it's fun for some reason. Well, I guess I could see this actually being fun as a kid, but they all like patch up to a polygraph and ask each other questions.
Yeah.
And that's when they find out that guy has not had sex with like 1 million girls like he claims.
He's had sex with 0.
And then I think he tries to say like 3, and then but like that's even a lie. And then like he hasn't had sex at all. And I just love that the question is why. That's people's reaction. The response is, well, why not? We all have, is how it feels.
Yeah, and I do like, and this is more of a movie thing, but actually it's just poorly written, where he gets hooked up to it, and they mention that they go up there, and then he goes, dare. And she goes, no, you don't do that. You have to ask the right question. Then he's like, okay, truth. And it's like, why are you saying truth or dare if you don't do dares?
And this I admit is nitpicky, but they get in there and our main character is like, so you guys come up here and hang out, and Mr. Kentucky's like, yeah, it's just one place that doesn't have cameras. And then
it's immediately we see a camera. I don't know.
So was Anya ever in the pool?
No.
Okay, that was to like entice him.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then like Ilyana's face dudes come out and attack everybody.
We're really jumping.
I mean, that's okay, right?
Okay, that's fine.
No one watched this movie.
Okay, well, before that though, it is determined, we still don't quite know what our main character's powers are, but it's determined that whatever they are,
because it keeps on showing her every time there's a haunting, and she's bright red, and it says psionic event.
Well, yeah.
Psionic event.
But I still wasn't quite sure what it was myself. Like I needed a little bit of an explanation.
Jordan.
But the computer determined that she needs to be terminated because she's too dangerous.
Yeah.
So the doctor is going to kill her.
Oh, right. I forgot about all that.
And Wolf Girl mauls her, and they get away.
Yeah.
And then that's when the nightmares start coming out, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get like 30 smiley face Slender Men.
Yeah.
And
plural.
I guess I was what?
Plural, yes. Slender Men.
I think this part also just was like so all over the place, because it's like, this is our action scene, action part of the movie, action-packed part of the movie. And you're just going to give us 30 Slendermen?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah.
We get dead, like the ghost of all these miners. That
ghost miners.
Charlie
would be cool.
Heaton is responsible for killing, or like the guys the other guy's burned up girlfriend zombie, walking around either. Same with the priest. We do get the priest.
Yeah.
But it's just no, we actually just couldn't figure out how to make it all work. So we just put the Slender Man in there.
That's it.
And then I also am so confused by Ileana's powers.
Yeah.
She can teleport.
She can make someone go unconscious.
Laser sword with a cool bionic arm.
Yeah.
And goes into some fantasy land.
And then I think the sword and maybe her arm are she can make fantasies come to life, is my guess.
It was so unclear.
Yeah, it didn't make sense.
She could do too much.
And I'm sure it's all comic booky, but it's that's too much power.
Yeah.
No one woman should have all that power. No. No.
Don't like it. It just didn't. You need to do better at explaining it.
One thing for anyone that watched it, there's a scene where they go into the doctor's office and they're the doctor tried to kill Moonstone or whatever her name is. And then Charlie Heaton goes, "What?
What?" And
we rewound it 3 times and started laughing so hard. It was
very funny.
And then we have the scene that I called Brother Bear.
Yeah.
And I will say this is the weirdest of the Brother Bear sequels, this movie. Because then the literal evil bear shows up and starts fighting them in a church.
Well, don't you know that it was the bear at the beginning of the movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do know.
Okay.
And it actually, for the most part, looked good.
I guess I don't know why you have such an issue with it being a bear.
Well, I just think it's funny that there's this story about the bear, this parable, and then it's just literally a bear.
But don't you think that she, in her subconscious, her nightmare is the evil bear inside her that she's afraid of?
Yeah. I just think it was very silly.
Okay.
That it was real instead of it being like just a metaphor and then some other evil force.
No, it's fine. It's fine because what would you rather have, an amorphous blob that we usually get?
No. I think I would probably just maybe make up a different parable or something like that.
But it's a Native American parable.
I know. I don't know how to fix it because I didn't think about it. It struck me as funny when it was a real bear that came through. I just thought it was silly.
Okay.
And it's
I didn't think too much about
a silly movie.
Yeah.
So it's just okay.
Yeah. She is our Moonstone, if that's her name.
I don't think it is, but
I think that's her last name.
It seems like her name should be Eli Moonstone.
Moonstar.
Is there someone named Eli Moonstone in fiction? Because that sounds like something. Hi, I'm Dr. Eli Moonstone. Are you looking that up?
Mm-hmm.
Let me know if anything comes up.
No.
Okay, that's copywritten on this podcast. You can't name any characters or you owe us $5 billion.
But she is unconscious for a lot of this, and they're just trying to wake her up. And then when she finally wakes up, it doesn't stop the nightmare.
Yeah. I don't remember how she defeats it.
She just tells it, "No, I'm not afraid of you anymore."
Oh yeah, that was lame.
Yeah.
And then the movie ends.
Yeah.
And X-Men is over.
Uh-huh.
That's the triumphant end to X-Men. The epilogue. That's the last of the X-Men movies.
Yeah.
Pretty bad.
Right when we needed them.
It's pretty bad, but it's Apocalypse was hard to watch and I felt angry. This was whatever.
Yeah.
I've seen worse. I'll see worse than this. This is just a movie that's barely a movie. Whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I'm forgetting about it once we're done talking about it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So what do you think?
About X-Men?
About X-Men.
I think the X-Men are pretty cool.
Yeah? I mean, because when we went into this, you were like, oh my gosh, we have to watch so many X-Men movies. This sucks. I feel like it wasn't that hard, actually.
No, it was nothing. I was dreading a Fast and Furious situation.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like that.
And even though I feel like it was a very disjointed universe, that they didn't think through a lot of stuff.
That's what I think is what made it so interesting.
Yeah, it kind of made it interesting. And you know what? Here's something else that I'll say that's very strange is I think the reckless abandon of this series was a little refreshing to me for some reason.
Yeah.
The fact that they just weren't like beholden to basic things they set up, like timelines and stuff, because sometimes I do feel like the MCU especially with like the blip stuff, how they just keep referencing the blip and everything. I'm like, okay, I know where this movie takes place. Can we just move forward at this point?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was kind of nice that it's like, oh, I guess now in the 90s, this dumb thing happened to the X-Men, whatever.
Yeah.
So
it's like a history of the X-Men.
Yeah, I kind of dug in a weird way how much they weren't good at keeping the timeline of the universe together.
Yeah.
And I think that's just because I'm a little tired of the interconnectivity of Marvel, even though that's the fun of it.
Yeah.
So I kind of dug that, honestly.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's like, in a way, it feels a little bit more episodic.
Yeah. Another thing that I did really like about the universe is like Hugh Jackman, number one, you probably got to put him in like top 3 comic book performers.
Yeah.
I think you got to put him up there with Tony Stark, Iron Man, Robert Downey.
Yeah.
And I don't know who the third would be, but
Chris Evans. I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't know if I'd put him there.
One of the Batman. One of the Batmen.
Yeah, but there's so many, and they're all kind of cool in their own way, except for Ben Affleck. But
oh, come on.
Well, he doesn't.
I think you hurt his feelings.
No, but he doesn't have an opportunity to do anything. I think more than anything else.
I almost feel like in any movie that he's been in as Batman, he's a little confused why he's there.
Yeah.
And how he got there.
Oh, you know what? Christopher Reeve as Superman. That would be probably the number one.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I actually number one is J. Jonah Jameson. I forgot.
Okay.
That's my favorite comic book casting of all time. But anyway, I kind of dig the universe. I think the original crew really rocks.
Yeah.
And that original trilogy, I really enjoy.
Me too. Yeah.
And yeah, I think too, now Marvel is going to integrate the X-Men.
So in a way, this, like, having seen all of them now, it's like, end of an era of these types of superhero movies.
Yeah. And there's a little leak over because there's Deadpool 3.
Right.
And there is, like, Charles is in Doctor Strange, but it's like an alternate Charles and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But my hope is, and I'd like to hear what you think, I hope that they go square one with the X-Men.
Sure.
I really don't want it to be like Avengers 5 and then all of a sudden, like, James McAvoy comes rolling up in a wheelchair.
Yeah,
and it's
agree.
like, I'm here, and then like that class of X-Men. I think we need a clean starting point for the X-Men.
I agree. That's my hope too.
And Deadpool can kind of either not really integrate with the MCU, or he can look at the camera and be like, yeah, I know it doesn't make any sense, but I live in this universe now.
Yeah.
And it'd be fine.
Yeah.
And
what
I would
are they
accept
doing
that.
about Venom?
I don't know.
Because that's Fox, right?
Yeah, Sony.
Oh, that's right. It's Sony. That's right. Because I remember.
But there was that post-credit scene.
But that was also a different universe.
It was, yeah.
So I think, like, you can get away with that.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess that works.
Okay.
They could still technically have, like, a different Venom in Spider-Man.
Okay.
Yeah, that would work. And we still don't have to cover that in Morbius. So yeah, I hope they go clean slate with it. I do fear that they're going to get a little gun shy because Phase 5 is off to a rough start, and they might rely a little bit on, like, you know what, we renewed some contracts and these actors you liked are back.
Oh.
But I hope they don't do that. We need fresh blood. As much as they've gone through so many X-Men actors, we need fresh blood.
I think so too. I agree. I want that.
And another thing I would like is, I mean, I've said this on previous episodes, but I think the X-Men work best when they are somewhat divorced from other superheroes, because it's always struck me as odd that you could have, like, people in the U.S. all mad that there's mutants, but then they like Captain America.
Okay.
So I actually kind of like that these X-Men movies existed at the same time as the MCU and there was no crossover.
Yes.
Because it's like, that makes more sense to me.
Yes.
Because in a world of superheroes, it doesn't make sense that there's X-Men too.
No.
Really.
And when they were writing those comic books, they weren't thinking about that.
Not in that way.
Not in that way.
Yeah. And I'm sure you could cite like storylines and stuff that are cool, but I still think they're best when they don't do that. Especially when you're hitting the themes of like, hate.
So what's the thing to do then? X-Men get into this franchise and then they just don't really call that much attention to like the fact of what a mutant is?
Well, here's what I hope. I hope that what they do is like they bring the X-Men in and they start doing their own movies and basically do the same thing that they did before, but they would show up in like the big Avengers movies and like team up.
But that's kind of it.
That's my hope.
Interesting.
Because I would rather them not do like, oh my gosh, like Wolverine and Charles are going to team up with Doctor Strange in Doctor Strange 3. I don't want that.
Yeah.
I would prefer it if they kind of just kept them separate. And then every once in a while it was like, Charles, we have to call upon you. Like, we need your team because we can't defeat
How do you
this
feel
villain.
about like a storyline where it's an Avenger, meaning it's one of the Avengers, it's one of their movies.
Yeah.
And they're going on their story and they're like, oh, I have to go talk to Charles for 5 minutes to try and help me figure out this thing that I'm going through. Kind of like in the newest Spider-Man movie. I mean, Doctor Strange was in it quite a bit.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I'm talking about, where it was like, Doctor Strange, help me.
That's what I don't want them to do.
I think I don't want that either.
Yeah. But I mean, I have faith. I think Kevin Feige gets this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not just going to say that like the MCU is doomed because Quantumania was bad.
Yeah.
But I just think it's better when they're not interacting as much.
Mm-hmm.
But do a little interacting, of course. And what you may not know is in the Miss Marvel show, technically in the MCU, I believe that is the first mutant. Because
she is a mutant.
At the end of the show, they're like, hey, these bracelets gave you powers, but also it looks like you have a mutation in your genes. So that makes me think that they're just going to have like mutants and superheroes all over the place.
Just coexisting.
Yeah. Which, I mean, they do it in the comics, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just not what like my personal preference is.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Interesting.
Should we rank them?
Okay.
You need me to go first or remember
Yes.
the movies? Okay, so this is pretty tough, but at the very bottom, X-Men Apocalypse, easy. Then I think I'd probably go Days of Future Past.
Really?
Then I would probably go New Mutants. Then probably First Class. Then Dark Phoenix. Then Deadpool 2. Then X-Men Origins Wolverine. X-Men. Deadpool. The Wolverine. X-Men 2. And Logan.
I see your phone.
Yeah, here. It's coming in hot. Catch. Wow, nice catch, yo.
So I think for me, I would do Apocalypse at the bottom, New Mutants. I think I would put First Class next.
Okay.
Then Days of Future Past.
Whoa, you're putting First Class below that. That's crazy.
I really hated that movie.
There's
a guy hula hooping.
I know, but it has a story and makes sense. And First Class was
just when I think back on it, though, it makes me more upset that it's.
And you did have Hugh Jackman in Future Past, so.
Well, that's not really determining anything for me. He's just a Hulk in that movie. So then Days of Future Past, maybe X-Men Origins Wolverine, Dark Phoenix, Deadpool 2. No. X-Men, Deadpool 2.
Whoa, that's wild.
Well, I'm kind of forgetting my order already.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that. And then, did I say Dark Phoenix and then Deadpool 2?
Yeah.
And then What's left?
I don't think you said Deadpool, Logan, The Wolverine, X2, or The Last Stand. Oh, I don't think I said The Last Stand either.
I think I would do Deadpool 2 and then Deadpool. Did I say Origins yet?
Yeah, you have said that one already. You put that one below Dark Phoenix.
Oh, I would switch that.
Okay.
So, Dark Phoenix and then Origins, Deadpool 2, Deadpool 1, probably X3, X2, and Logan.
Wow, so you jumped up X3 because you liked that one.
I do like that movie more, but
2 is better.
2 is better simply because of Nightcrawler.
And it's a better story. And everything about it is a little bit better.
Okay, fine.
All right, toss it back to me. Here we go. Not a good throw. Okay, let me hit it again now because I messed up. Okay, I'm gonna go reverse order. Number 1. Okay, Logan, X2, The Wolverine, The Last Stand, X-Men. No. The
It's impossible.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. So I think I'd put Deadpool above The Last Stand. Then I would do X-Men. Then X-Men Origin Wolverine. Then I would go Dark Phoenix, First Class, Future Past. No. First Class, New Mutants. No. It'd be Dark Phoenix, First Class, New Mutants, Future Past, Apocalypse. That's it. We did it.
Wow, that was really tough.
It was hard.
That was tougher than watching all the movies.
You know what, Jordan? It was. So today is June 23rd. Can you even believe it?
No, I can't because it's not.
Yeah. We're about to have our child.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going dark here pretty soon. Going on maternity
but not
leave.
for you. We're not taking a break for you.
No, you won't miss any episodes. The only thing to note is The Flash we are not going to be seeing in theaters. We'll be covering that later in the year after we get back from maternity leave. So this month on Patreon, you can listen to our episode on Kick-Ass 2. And a reminder, folks, we have to get to 50 patrons by the end of the year, or we will not be able to feed our child. I'm just kidding. But we do have to get to 50 patrons so we can launch our second exclusive podcast, which will cover all the Pixar movies. We need that for our child. Our child needs that. Yeah. She definitely does. So help us get there. Follow the link in the bio, in the description, I mean. And then next week, we start our new series on Dirty Harry. The Clint Eastwood
dirty
movies.
And it's getting hairy.
Yeah, so there's 5 of those, and we'll be covering our 3rd movie with the title Deadpool, because one of the movies is called The Deadpool. Well,
no one knows this because I don't think the movie is like super well known, but he is the first Deadpool to be on screen.
Yeah. So
Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, we're getting close, Jordan. I have a little spot on here. So we're almost to where the baby gets born, and then all the episodes that we're doing after that is our actual maternity leave. Okay, let's do it. Let's get to it. Yeah, so thanks for listening, everyone. Thank you. Let us know, write a review, and let us know which mutant power you would desire. Or what you have, what your mutant power is.